So, that being said, part 2 for vision versus fantasy. I love this topic. This topic is a pillar content for me, for my life as a 4. I'm a 4 on the Enneagram. And 4s are very, in the business world, the word is grandiose. We're all about possibilities. We're very dreamy. We're very subjective. We're way into the, dude, I got the idea. And there's a place for vision, and a place for dreaming, and a place for fantasy, and a place for imagination is what I'm trying to say. And the difference between vision and fantasy. The other day I was telling my roommate a story. I had my iPhone. I was in Lake Tahoe, and I think I was using the flashlight because I was camping, and I was like using the light, and I couldn't get the light to turn off. And that night was just an emotional night, and I was on my phone all night, and I was pissed that I was on not just on my phone, on it, and I wasn't like connecting with people. I wasn't having the intimate, face-to-face like intimacy that I wanted. I was on my phone. I was just like, oh, I don't want to be on my phone, and I was pissed. And God, it wouldn't work right. It wasn't working right. I just had this moment. I just took my phone and I threw it as hard as I could against the biggest pine tree that was just right there at the moment. Threw it as hard as I could. And it just hit it square on, man. I picked it up and I threw it again at the tree and just destroyed it. And I've never done that. I know a lot of I hear friends that have done that. I'm like, dude, you idiot. Like, what really? And I've never done anything like that before. And I was telling my roommate this story, and she's all, oh, that's, you know what that's called, right? And I was like, no, the key thing I said was that it felt good. It felt right. I was like, it just felt like the right thing to do. And I don't regret it. I'm kind of glad I did. Yeah, I just spent the whole next day driving to Reno and getting a new phone and all the stuff and the money. But she's like, that's called emotional masturbation. And I just thought, oh, I've never heard that before. And that's exactly, it was just kind of this, And there's something to be said about physical masturbation as well as emotional, that I don't want to make it right or wrong. And I don't want to make it a morals issue. But it doesn't really get you anywhere. It just kind of is a Band-Aid. It kind of just fixes the problem in the moment. It's this sort of just emotional, like, okay, like, I don't even want to call it a problem. It just sort of creates the satisfaction in the moment. And that's fantasy. Vision is when you take all that energy and that juice and that desire, that sex drive, that emotional energy. Emotion is energy in motion. You take all that, and that's like the fuel in this train. There's like a steam engine that's like pushing this train down the tracks of your life. It's like you're the train, the tracks of your life, your path, your life. Here's where you're going, and all that energy is like the gas, man. It's like it's the juice. Like it's gonna move this bitch. You get this thing going, right? Where you want it to go. So if you dump all that coal out the back, now your train is just sitting there. You jacked off, you had your emotional masturbation moment, and it was great. But your train's not going anywhere. You are where you are. And maybe that's where you want to be, but cool. And I don't know, that's why I think, I have an idealistic fantasy maybe about marriage, but I believe in the ideal of marriage and monogamy and just that alignment. And I believe in the concept that our sex energy will be the fuel in the engine to drive us down the path of relationship and courting and dating and getting to know someone. So then when you finally do have sex with them, your train is moving. It's gone down this path, and now you've entered into this release of energy, but you've moved where you want to go, if you want to go there. So vision is taking steps. Vision's taking practical steps today, tomorrow, on the pathway of your fantasy. And I think it's, I don't know, healthy, good, whatever, great to imagine and dream as big as you can dream. And I like the word fantasy. I like to call it fantasy. I like to call dreaming fantasy. I like to encourage fantasy. And I like to also encourage the polarity of fantasy, which is vision. Dreaming, fantasy over here, vision, practicality, realistic steps, doing something like, what can I do today? What do they say? From right where I am with what I got. What can I do right now? With what I got, where I am. Practical next step. And you also hold the polarity of this huge vision, a dream, fantasy, imagination. So you have the big one, and you have today's practicality. So people tend to be on one end of that spectrum or the other. And I'm not saying either is right or wrong or good or bad. They're just different. And I find that the expansion in my life, the power, the juice that I'm finding is to sort of acknowledge where I am on that spectrum, which I tend to be in the dreamy fantasy side, and make it my work that weekday to reach into the, okay, not I need to be more practical, but I want to reach and expand into that side of the spectrum. And I'm going to practice practicality, and I'm going to practice just like realistic steps today that is like a domino on my journey and on my path of my life vision of what I want to do. That's my phone. Okay, so I think that's it for vision versus fantasy. There may have been more, and I've thought of this like years ago, or no, I don't know, thought, saw, and maybe there's something else, but for today, I think that's it.